Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear listening into another Gamer's Thoughts discussion. And I'm going to be talking about another developer. I'm not specifically calling out to the developer this time, even though it is Remedy. I'm not specifically calling out to the developer this time. Talking about how the Xbox Series S is supposedly holding back progress of the game they're developing. Now, I've already covered this subject and made my main point, which was to say game consoles, any platform, does not hold back another platform or another version of the platform. That doesn't make sense. There's multiple reasons why that doesn't make sense. For one, depending upon your game, your specs may be lower than that Xbox Series S for PC. And I've already gone over that with one other game. I'm not going to do it again here. I'm going to hit this from a different angle, because I'm starting to think there's a little bit of a pattern here. I'm thinking that Microsoft is pissed off a bunch of different developers and publishers. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm thinking that they have. I mean, that could explain why a lot of the people from their teams have just up and quit or jumped off of a project. And I don't know what the culture is that is going on with Microsoft, especially within the Xbox division itself, that's causing this. But it's becoming highly apparent that these statements are motivated by something else other than the tech of the platform. And I'm not going to keep calling people out directly or going and tweeting or posting now under someone else and explaining the same thing over and over again. That's monotonous. Especially when I see them make the same comment that I've already corrected them on. It was just at that point, it's pointless. I'm not even jumping in on that argument. Because at that point, I'm better off just directly addressing where the statement is made from. So, I really do think that Microsoft has pissed off a lot of people. Because this is not the type of thing that you have heard about Microsoft at all before. You heard this a lot about Nintendo and their platforms, but you were not hearing this about Xbox at all. So I'm curious, is it because the well of money is potentially drying up because Nadella doesn't want to spend a bunch of money into third-party franchises? Is that the problem? Because I believe that may actually be the problem. I'm thinking that's what it is. Call it a hunch. I have no way to confirm this. So it is definitely a hunch. But it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever to go ahead and say, well, this particular platform is screwing up the development of everything else. Especially when you have to account for PCs that have lesser components than that platform. And on top of that, Xbox Series S and X, there's two of them, but their configurations don't change. So you have to work within those configurations. And if you've done it multiple times already, it shouldn't be a problem to you. Unless you are starting out at the highest end and then trying to work your way back, which is stupid. I'm not even sugarcoating that one. That is stupid. Your best bet is always to work with the lowest common denominator and then work your way up. That's the best way to do it. Or you know what? If you guys don't want to start putting stuff directly on the Series S, guess what you can do? The same thing you've been doing with the Nintendo Switch. Make a cloud version that is specifically for that version of the platform. Now, that's probably a bad idea. That is probably wholeheartedly a bad idea to do, because then you'd have a bunch of people complaining, and the Series S is the version of the Xbox Series that has sold the best. So you would be wasting money and losing people's support. You'd be losing the support of the people that are purchasing the platform. Yeah, there are more Series S's out there than there are Series X's. But everybody is like, well, the Series X should have just been made without a disk drive. That really wouldn't have cut much of the expense for them with the way that the Xbox Series X is developed. It really wouldn't have cut much of the expense for them, and they wouldn't have been able to drop the price enough to make it competitive with the Nintendo Switch. And that's what the Series S was supposed to be. A competitive platform for the Nintendo Switch, but also one that could potentially appeal to the Japanese audience. But that's a whole other subject. I'm still sitting here like, how does one platform hold back another? Even in the same line, how does one hold back the other? The answer still is, it doesn't. Or should we go back to when PS3 launched horribly and developers were having a hard time getting their games to, work properly on the PS3 because of how its RAM was split? Was the PS3 holding back the Xbox 360 at that point? I mean, I don't think so. Oh, but then they were releasing games for the PS2 still, well into the life cycle of the PS3 and Xbox 360 and Wii. So was the PS2 holding all those other platforms back when they all got the same game? I'm just curious. Were handheld consoles holding back home consoles when they got the same game? Please tell me. Is that how this works now? Because we can revise a lot of history off of this if you really want to. I mean, I don't personally, because I'd rather stick with the facts and, logic and reason. But please tell me, how does one platform hold the other back? And if anything, if you are shooting for a lower spec PC version, and I'm pretty sure you are, because a lot of people on PC don't have above 8 gigabytes of RAM in their system. And a lot of people use older PC components, which can have issues because they're less efficient. Are those holding back these games now? Are those holding back all the other versions of the PC, of all the other games on PC? Because that's kind of what you're saying there. Because PC is a wide world of variations. The only way two PCs are going to be alike is if they are manufactured that way. But custom builds are far different than those that are manufactured. So, are we going to say that any custom build that doesn't have the exact specifications that the developers want for PC, that's holding back the game for every other PC gamer out there? You have to use logic with these things, because what they're saying doesn't make sense. And as I've said before, when they start saying stuff that doesn't make sense, there's another reason behind the scenes. And I am really thinking Microsoft pissed off a lot of people. I don't even think it has anything to do with the consoles themselves. It specifically has something to do with them pissing off certain people in the industry. Now, I don't know how they pissed them off. I can only guess, and like I said, I think it's more or less because the money isn't as limitless as it was before, especially for third-party projects. Now, the money is there if they're going to buy out the third-party project and make it exclusive, but they're not giving out money for as much money for third-party projects that are going to be multi-platform. That much has become very well apparent. And it could also be because this whole FTC versus Microsoft trial kind of exposed what Sony was doing behind the scenes. That was giving them a leg up in certain places. And now it's something that can be scrutinized. So there's a lot of things that could be the reason. Again, I can only speculate on so much. And I'm still curious as to why we're running with this narrative now. The weird thing is, I don't even remember hearing this particular statement for the Wii U. I've never heard anyone say the Wii U is holding back another platform. Now, I've heard them say that the Wii U is underpowered, which could be seen as a similar concept and statement. Even though I've gone over this multiple times, the Wii U came out before the PS4 and Xbox One. And it came out before we even knew what those machines were. And so, I don't know how you hold back something that is unrelated to you. So I am very curious as to what the excuse is, besides, oh, well, it's not as powerful. Okay, and you wouldn't have this problem if you started off working with the lower specs anyway. You work with the lower specs and then you upgrade what you can for the higher specs. Why is this such a difficult thing to understand? I mean, maybe this is why so many games are struggling to, work the way they want them to. I mean, we do have this being another generation of a lot of false promises. Or promises that didn't really come true because people got hyped up and blew their load well before they knew what they were doing. So, again, as the thinker here, that does not make sense. And it is not the brightest way to work on these things. Now, people could say, well, it may be because of shareholders and the pressure to try to get these things out for the highest quality machine. And if that's the case, I mean, again, that's more conjecture coming from me than anything else. But if that's the case, why do we listen to these shareholders? Because they clearly do not understand the industry that they're trying to fund. If anything, at that point, then we don't need to listen to the shareholders. We just need to do what needs to be done to get the correct results. At least that's what I'm thinking. But again, PS5 Pro is one of those things that's on the horizon. That comes out. Is the PS5 suddenly holding back the PS5 Pro? When the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro launched, were the PS4 and the base Xbox One and the slim models holding back the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro? I don't remember anybody having this whole narrative. I don't remember this being a thing. I don't remember this conversation coming up at all. Because again, if you're going to say it, it has to logically apply across the board. It legitimately has to be able to logically apply across the board. The thing that logically applies across the board is usually the thing that is correct. The thing that does not logically apply across the board, meaning you can't think backwards on it and say, oh yeah, that makes sense, it's more than likely wrong. I'm not saying it's always wrong, but I'm saying it's more than likely wrong. Sometimes we gotta break these things down slowly, piece by piece. Now, and again, I am thinking that the Xbox One S, not One S, Series S, has become the new Wii U. It's the platform to bash on because they're pissed off with the platform holder. Because they can't say it about the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X. Because we all know that's comparable to the PS5, a little bit more powerful, slightly slower SSD. But it has ways to make up for the slight difference in speed in the SSD. So, they definitely could not get away with saying that about the Xbox Series X. They said that too many people would be like, nah, that clearly does not make any sense. But I'm really getting the thought that Microsoft has pissed off a lot of these developers and publishers. And I mean, they kind of do have a history of pissing off the third parties they are partnered with. I mean, they've definitely pissed off Platinum. That's one of the reasons that Scalebound got flushed. And I was looking forward to that game. I was so looking forward to that game. I wanted it so badly. And then they had to throw on an online multiplayer that wasn't needed. And then they had to throw on a Windows version that wasn't promised before. So I get the feeling that they have been pissing people off one way or the other. So again, and then a lot of Final Fantasy games weren't coming to Xbox. And I think they just mended that relationship with Square. So maybe that's the more correct thing here, is that Microsoft's been pissing people off. Specifically, the Xbox division has been pissing people off. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We don't. We have no clue. But my guess could be that, one, money has dried up. Two, this whole FTC thing exposed a lot of companies to scrutiny that they didn't want. Or three, their deals are just not working out the way that they want them to. Which that could also be a thing. And that is also related to money, but it's a little bit looser on the money thing. It might just be a thing where it's just not working out for them, especially if their games are potentially going to be coming to Game Pass. That could also be an issue. So, I mean, hey, there's a multitude of things to consider. I just don't know which one is the correct thing, but I think, I'm at least in the ballpark. I'm there. I'm near it. I mean, my metal detector's beeping. I just don't know how deep I have to dig to figure out what the cause is. So, I mean, again, this is just me analyzing the situation for what it really is. The whole Series S is holding everything back is bullshit. Because honestly, if we're to really believe that, they should have been saying this when it launched. But you know who did say something similar when this launched? Oddly enough, games journalists. They did say something very similar to this about the Xbox Series S when they launched them. Said that once the current gen consoles basically stopped receiving games or stopped getting games, that was going to be the thing to hold the others back. But again, how? If you have no programming knowledge, how the hell would you know that that's going to happen? That's another thing. And it also bugs me for a team to say that. The developers or publishers to say that. Well, specifically developers to say that. Publishers usually don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they're not the ones making the game. But developers saying this specifically bugs me, because then you're also telling us that you do not have the talent on your team to make it happen the way it should. Or it could also be that you don't have the money to make it happen the way it should. The money and the time. If we're going back, and there are so many people that go back and recode old classic games and boost their performance, add features to the games that they would theoretically not have been able to have during the time frame that these games came out. And these are individual people, hobbyists, that are making these things happen. There is no reason that a fully paid, talented developer that has made it into the industry can't do the same. There's no logical reason that they can't do the same. Outside of money and time. Well, money, time, and talent. Those would be the things that I would think would be the issue, not necessarily the hardware, because the hardware doesn't change unless you're on PC or you're developing for mobile. But mobile configurations are a little bit less changing than PC configurations. So, I mean, again, there are so many things that could be the answer here. So many things that I am just not willing to sit here and say, oh yeah, it's definitely guaranteed that the Series S is holding everything back. There are too many other answers that have yet to actually be explored. Too many different potential trails that no one has picked up on, that I've mentioned, that just seem to be getting ignored for the easy go-to, oh no, it's not our fault, it's the hardware. No, we've got this great game for you and everything, but we can't put it on this hardware because it's holding all of our talent back. The hardware is actively making it impossible for us to do our job. It's making it very difficult for us to go ahead and put the game on this platform. The hardware is telling us we can't. The hardware that has no logic of its own. The hardware that runs the code you create. The hardware that does the inputs you give it. Think about all that. Like, legitimately. Think about that. So you can't tell me that there is nothing else besides the hardware causing the problem. Like, oh, these PCs are too low spec. We can't give you the opportunity to play games on these PCs. They're holding back the creativity for us, for everyone with the higher tiered platform. If you don't have an RTX in your machine, you are holding us back. If you don't have 24 gigabytes of RAM at bare minimum, you're holding us back. If you don't have a 4K screen attached to your computer, you are holding us back. Does that make any sense to you guys? Does it? Now granted, I do understand that, you know, bigger size files take more work to process because there's more data. So I understand that. I'm not saying that they have to try to make a game that's supposed to be a large scale action adventure game in HD run on a computer with 2 gigabytes of RAM and like a 20 gigabyte hard drive. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't make sense to say hardware is limiting you. Especially when you put a game on a platform with varying versions of hardware that do not stay consistent. Because there are times games can run at lower than recommended specs. Not recommended, lower than minimum specs. And they run decently. That's the whole reason that PC is customizable. It's customizable from the details that you allow the game to show and to how fast you have the game running. You can customize that on PC. Console, once you know what it's capable of, you work within what it's capable of. Maybe that's the big problem. Because we've got development teams that don't want to go back into their code and edit their code. I mean, they'll happily pass it off to a third-party company. I mean, obviously outside of themselves, to do the same. They'll happily pass off to a port team and let them do that work and potentially improve their code. Witcher 3. But they don't want to do it directly themselves. But you would think they would because they get paid more to do it, but they don't want to, which is weird. That's why I've always said that having hardware that is too much the same becomes a problem. Because then there's less work going into the development of the code. I've come up with multiple problems that could be the reason this is not working the way they say it should. And it's the only one that's actually related to hardware. Is that much of our hardware in the gaming industry right now, as far as between Microsoft and Sony, is very samey. Isn't that ironic? Like that could be the reason. Because hardware has been very samey. Maybe not exactly the same, but close enough. And when you got something that's a little bit more different than they like, then it becomes an issue. Because that was definitely an issue when it came down to the Wii U. It's an issue that persists with the Switch, and now it's an issue that's cropping up with the Xbox Series S. See, my whole purpose to this was to make people question that. And if you've been listening to me, you're probably thinking of some other stuff that I may not have even thought about. That could also be the reason, especially if you're into tech. But I think I'm done. This was fun, actually, for me. This one was actually fun to do, which is weird. But it's probably because I got to analyze, and I love doing analysis. But thank you guys very much for listening, and keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, everybody. Thank you once again. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and if you would like to support my efforts in creating content, please look up my book that is currently on Amazon for purchase. That is The Game Idea Guy Presents Gaming Word Search Volume 1. I am currently working on Volume 2, and it would be highly appreciated. That way you could get something for you supporting me. Again, thank you very much. Peace out.